There are monsters loose on Earth, and we're not just talking about your mum. So I'll do a proper take now. There are monsters loose on Earth, and we're not just talking about Eyeball Paul here. It's time to talk about the good, the bad, and the gooey in Alien Earth, and how it shifts the paradigm of not just the alien world, but the entire franchise.
What do we do now?
Now we rule.
We'll get into a lot of this in more detail later, but to recap, at the end of Alien Earth, Kavalier, Kirsh, Morrow, Dame Sylvia, and Atom are locked up in a people-sized birdcage while a couple xenomorphs circle around. It seems likely that the humans in the cell are about to become alien food. But since that doesn't happen before the credits roll, there's still a small chance some of them will make it out alive. Wendy and the Lost Boys, meanwhile, have taken their place at the top of the pecking order. Where they go from there is anyone's guess, but something tells us that saying "we rule" isn't just referring to the island. So they'll probably head out to the world at large, blend in as humans, get briefly hunted by Deckard, we wish, but just kidding, and learn to pull corpo-political strings on the Earth of 2120. Basically, Alien Earth doesn't wrap things up as neatly as you'd hope, and certainly leaves some questions for a future season to hopefully answer. What will become of Wendy's new pets? Now that T.R. Sellers has a fresh new body with only a few holes, what's that thing going to do? It can't quite blend in with humans as well as the hybrids, but it could get by reasonably well with a big pair of Ray-Bans. And in the background of all that, Yutani just sent a fleet of recovery ships to the island to get their aliens back. It feels like this story is just getting started, so let's dig into the details of everything that happened and see where it might go. All the Alien movies have given hints that day-to-day life in the sci-fi future, it kinda sucks. Corporations are the dominating force on the planet and keep tight control over what people can and can't do. The Nostromo crew haggles over shares while they work off extended contracts in space. The Marines and aliens are basically well-funded corporate muscle. Rain is little more than an indentured servant with a work contract that Weyland-Yutani can extend by years anytime they want. It's a world where time served is the measure of work. And Alien Earth gives the clearest picture yet of what that would look like. Of the 5 big corporations in the show, we only really get a look at one of Prodigy's territories, with a small glimpse of a Yutani city. These companies own entire sections of the planet where all the citizens work for them. In Prodigy City, most of the people don't have much to their name and live under constant company surveillance, while rich citizens like these eyes wide shut looking folks enjoy a buffet of luxury. And God forbid you ever get a handout, like say a lung or an arm, from one of the companies, because nothing here comes free.
There is a price. When a corporation gives you something, there's always a price.
Corporate intrigue is plenty interesting, but it's not an alien story without, well, aliens. The Xenomorph gets its time in the spotlight straight from episode 1. But the Marginos Biological Survey is full of never-before-seen extraterrestrial threats. The most notable newcomer is definitely Tiarsalus, the creepy little eyeball octopus that wants nothing more than to make a cozy nest inside someone's eye socket and take over its brain. Sorry, I couldn't resist. It's a funny word, isn't it? Brain. Right, anyway, while we unfortunately never got the chance to see it assume control of a xenomorph, probably because it couldn't figure out where a xenomorph's eyes even are, the two are seemingly able to communicate in some fashion. This is an intelligent species, which only makes it more exciting and terrifying for the future of Alien Earth.
Oh my god. Oh, if only you could talk.
The other life forms on the ship aren't quite as smart, but they're still incredibly dangerous. Deep Lumbacara appears to be some kind of carnivorous plant, but as Kirsh notes, it might be fauna masquerading as flora, more jellyfish than eggplant. That's almost certainly the case, given that it can be seen crawling across the laboratory wall before showing off its camouflage abilities and getting a taste of human flesh. Finally, there are the flies and the ticks, which are a tad more destructive than their Earthling counterparts. The flies kill Tootles, sorry Isaac, with their digestive juice, and one gulp of tick-contaminated water is all it takes to eat apprentice engineer Malachite from the inside out. The different species are even capable of working together, like when Arcellus distracts Chibuzo so a tick can escape containment. So what do all these 4 new life forms have in common? Aside from the fact that they're all hazardous to our health, there's still a lot we don't know about each and every one of them. While we've seen the Xenomorph time and time again since 1979, these new monsters have lots of room to grow, literally. as we don't know what most of their life cycles look like in their entirety. There's nothing scarier than the unknown, especially when that unknown wants to burrow deep into your body. Prodigy Corp's hybrids combine human consciousness with synthetic bodies to create beings that are the best of both worlds. But don't think about it too hard, or you might end up with ethical concerns. Kavalier uses some trademark Disney magic to make his mad science more palatable to his child test subjects and their families, putting Peter Pan on the ceiling of his operating room and inspiring the first hybrid to choose a new name for herself.
She looks like a Wendy.
Kavalier runs with the theme, naming the rest of the first batch of hybrids after the Lost Boys. It's a fun idea, but it means that they're burdened with the names Slightly, Curly, Tootles, Nibs, and Smee. Silly names aren't the only things they get though. The once sickly children receive shiny new synthetic adult bodies that let them run faster, punch harder, and ignore fall damage. Sounds great, right? Turns out that transhumanism isn't all fun and games. It doesn't take long for the problems and contradictions of the hybrid's existence to catch up with them. For Wendy and Slightly, problems arrive when members of their original families get roped into corporate schemes. While synths like Kirsh are able to make cold, calculating, often cruel decisions simply by following their programming, hybrids ostensibly still have a semblance of human morality.
Generation after generation, all we can do is watch and take names.
It would be pretty hard for any mortal mind, let alone a child's, to come to terms with the fact that they'll probably live long enough to watch all their loved ones die. But is the love that hybrids feel real love, or just a facsimile? Can a brain that's been copied and pasted into a piece of hardware still have the soul of a real human with real human feelings? That's the trillion-dollar question.
If I'm not human, what am I?
Whatever you want to be.
Don't even get us started on Nibs, who gets some of her memories wiped after becoming convinced that she's pregnant. Anyone who's seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind knows that the concept of erasing memories is ethically thorny. And that's when you do it yourself. Deleting chunks of someone else's brain by force and altering their personality is another story entirely. But the Lost Boys can never grow up, and nothing forces young people to mature faster than an unexpected pregnancy.
Just too young to have a child. Well, it's true.
Instead of Peter Pan, perhaps Frankenstein would be a better point of comparison for Prodigy's development in the hybrid space. While the Lost Boys are all physically superior to normal humans, Wendy is easily the most powerful of the bunch. Not only is she the first hybrid in existence, like Neil Armstrong as Kavalier puts it, but she can take control of everything from advanced technology to extraterrestrial beings.
She rewrote the code somehow.
Did we know? Did we give her that skill?
Wendy can do a lot more than get a robot to quote the fourth Ice Age movie. She can manipulate the entire Prodigy network and everything on its interface, from jail cell doors to violent synths. It's a power unlike anything we've ever seen before in the Alien universe, and it would probably have bigger implications if the following 200 years of history hadn't already been shown throughout the film franchise. But of course, that pales in comparison to Wendy's greatest achievement so far, her ability to bond and communicate with Xenomorphs. With her influence, the so-called perfect organism becomes the Lost Boys' personal attack dog, showing up in a pinch when they're outnumbered and outgunned. Dog Whisperer? Try Alien Whisperer. That's all well and good, but that still leaves plenty of unanswered questions about Wendy's skill set. For one, can her Lost Boys theoretically do the same things that she can? Slightly gets mad that Wendy has her brother around while the others can't see their families. But why can't he access the Prodigy network to talk to his loved ones from a distance like she did? If the other Lost Boys also had their hearing adjusted like Wendy's was, could they also gain the ability to talk to Xenomorphs? And finally, is there even more that the hybrids are capable of that we have yet to see? We'll just have to wait to find out. We went into Alien Earth expecting something resembling a tidy wrap-up by the end. Like we mentioned, hybrids and an island overrun by xenomorphs aren't mentioned in any of the other films, even though chronologically those take place after Earth. So how does the show actually mesh with the wider alien world? You could argue that since those films take place in deep space where no one can hear you scream, those characters were just out of the loop about what was happening back on terra firma. Technically, Ripley and the Nostromo crew are either in transit or just about to be while all this is going down. And who would bother to radio some random space-trucking crew to tell them that a ship crashed on Earth? And the events on Earth are fairly contained. They mostly happen in a single wrecked building, then on an isolated island operating under a heavy blanket of secrecy. The hybrids are just prototypes, and it's highly doubtful Prodigy is going to make any more of those, even if Kavalier is still breathing by Season 2. They also look exactly like humans, so even if they get back off the island, they aren't going to cause some huge world-changing shakeup. As far as the Xenomorphs go, remember, Weyland-Yutani never got a hold of a specimen that we've seen. They probably got some data on eggs and facehuggers sent back from the Marginaux, but we've yet to see them encounter a grown-up version. In that light, it actually makes sense why the company would divert the Nostromo a couple years later if there was a chance to recoup some of their costs collecting those things. On the other hand, Morrow's probably debriefed his handlers on what he's seen, and if that recovery crew at the very end finds a Xenomorph, it does raise some questions. Like, why do those Weyland-Yutani bureaucrats give Ripley such a hard time 57 years later when they interrogate her on Gateway Station?
We homed in on its beacon
and found something never recorded once in over 300 surveyed worlds.
Is it nitpicking? Maybe. Noah Hawley always said he wasn't necessarily sticking to canon, but it's hard to jump into a beloved sandbox and ignore all the other sandcastles that have been built. Did you spot any other plot holes in relation to the rest of the franchise? Let us know in the comments if you did. One thing you notice about the Xenomorphs is that they don't seem to have the same habits as some of the aliens in past films. Not in the way they can't outrun a single main character, no. That's just a plot contrivance, unfortunately. More in the sense they don't have any motivation besides rampant murder. That kind of behavior makes sense in the latter Xenos because they've got Wendy in their brains telling them what to do. But it's a little puzzling in the first one that gets loose on the Marginaux and the building in Prodigy City. As we've seen in countless films, Xenomorphs are hive creatures. They live to reproduce, dragging people away to incubate more chest-bursters. In the absence of a hive to protect, they've been known to morph people into eggs to get a hive started. But this guy isn't doing that. It just slaughters anything made of flesh and moves on. It could simply be in the survival stage of its instincts. We know they adapt based on their environment, and any lone xenomorph rarely acts the same as any other one. But given, say, an entire bacchanal of soft bodies, you'd think it took at least one person away in an air vent for later. Having said all that, we're not actually upset about it. It sort of takes us back to what the Alien was before any sequels or expanded lore. Heck, before the director's cut of Alien, it's the embodiment of a force of nature. A hurricane in an exoskeleton blowing through anything that might be a threat. In that sense, it worked for the story, which is okay with us. Boy Kavalier is undoubtedly a man with feet. If anyone in this show has feet, it's him. But aside from that, he's a genius, trillionaire, patriciding prodigy, and the owner of one of the 5 controlling corporations on future Earth, which means he can pretty much do whatever he wants.
A boy genius, destined to rule the world.
And he does. In fact, he has pretty severe impulse control problems. It's his literal name. He's childish and impulsive. His success is built on charging ahead with whatever he wants to do. As he tells Dame Sylvia, the hybrids aren't about granting immortality to the world. They're about letting him have a decent conversation with smart people. Then he risks those billion-dollar hybrids in a dangerous retrieval operation to secure all the alien specimens. We find out later that he orchestrated the Marginaux's crash. But come on, even that was a poorly thought-out scheme. What are the chances he gets away with that? But again, that's his whole deal. He doesn't really care. It's worked for him so far. Consequences be damned. Heck, he spends a good part of 2 episodes just wondering which flesh bag he should stick an alien eyeball into.
How do you feel about your eyes?
Sir?
Basically, he almost can't fathom an outcome where things don't go his way. Which is why, for all his smarts, he's blind to the idea that the hybrids would turn against him until the very last moment. And by then, it's too late. To paraphrase a wizard, he delved too greedily and too deep in his efforts to fully bridge transhumanism and ended up getting whipped by the Balrog.
Fascinating. Fascinating. Fascinating.
Kirsh is one of the most fascinating characters in Alien Earth, even though, or maybe because he's a mystery throughout most of the show. He doesn't keep his synthetic nature a secret until a big reveal like Ash. and he doesn't go on a fanatical power trip like David. Kirsh's motivations are much more subtle, and sometimes his actions even seem to conflict with other stuff he's done. What it boils down to is that for him, everything is a test. Everything. He's a scientist, and his programming tells him he needs to learn about these creatures for the company. So what does he do? He allows scenarios to unfold and observes the results.
Step by step, follow protocols to the letter. The scientific method is a method, not a suggestion box.
He doesn't stop slightly from trying to get an alien embryo into someone and smuggle them off the island, because allowing that to happen will give him more data about the specimen, which in a roundabout way helps the company. So when Kavalier asks him if everything's alright after Arthur gets face-hugged, he doesn't lie when he says,
Affirmative.
technically, everything's going according to plan. He's learning about how they work. Did he know Isaac would screw up in the lab? It's hard to say, but it's also hard to believe otherwise, since he has remote access to all the lab cameras and functions. You know what, now that we think about it, maybe he's Peter Pan.
When they seem to be growing up, which is against the rules, Peter thins them out.
One aspect that Alien Earth really seems to want you to understand is that morality is a spectrum. Just ask yourself, who's the villain in the show? Kavalier is obviously at the top of the list. He starts out bad and just gets worse as the series progresses, and really drives it home when he reveals that he killed his dad as a child. But aside from him, it's arguable that just about everyone in the show takes on the role of villain at some point or another. Kirsh, like we just said, has a cold fascination with the scientific method and doesn't care who dies in the service of that. Then there's Morrow, who's sinister, ruthless, and determined, often more machine than man. But there's a human heart and soul pumping underneath that robotic demeanor. He had a family, including a daughter who grew up on Earth, while he was away on the Margino's biological survey and died before he returned home. He's as conflicted as anyone else in what he does, but that doesn't stop him from doing those things. Arthur and Dame Sylvia are likable enough, but they know full well that they're leading unethical experiments on kids.
You think you're a good person who did good things. All you did is put 6 children in the ground.
They have good intentions, and Arthur does try to atone, but it doesn't change what they've done. The show seems to be suggesting that everyone is just one rationale away from becoming the bad guy. If anything, the aliens are the only innocent characters in the show. Most of them, including the Xenomorph, are just doing their thing to survive. From a fly's perspective, is dissolving a guy's face with your mouth fluids any different than making a hamburger? Okay, maybe not T.R. Sellers. That thing sure seems like a jerk. Add him to the villain pile. And don't worry, we aren't forgetting about Wendy and the other hybrids. Did you watch Alien Earth with one half of your brain glued to your phone, asking Gemini how many shirts can fit in a washing machine and eyeballing the Uber Eats delivery guy through your Ring door cam? Ours is a connected world built on technologies of convenience, and Alien Earth is saying, yo, it's a slippery slope. How long will technology serve man before it's the other way around? Interestingly, Alien Earth isn't even pinpointing AI. Like Kirsh, for example, as the existential threat. It's saying that we're going to undo ourselves. It's not technology on its own that the show suggests will catastrophically supersede humans, but technology bootstrapped to unchecked and flawed human impulse.
Wouldn't that be nice? To be all machine instead of what I am. The worst parts of the man.
Wendy and the Lost Boys become, as the title of the last episode implies, the real monsters when their human impulses take charge.
Run.
The fact that they're machine bodies certainly helps, no doubt about that. But it's the human side of them that drives their actions, their ruthlessness, cunning, and retribution. So with these improved bodies and newfound strength and skills, they're emboldened to take what Kavalier and the other company heads and every notable person in history has spent their lives trying to achieve: power. Their intentions are arguably more noble, but by the end, you can't help but wonder if the heroes of the show are any different than Boy Kavalier. His hubris is now theirs. They realize they have the ability to be in charge, and they're taking it, for better or worse. Pandora's box has been opened in Neverland, and there's no going back. In a way, you could say the same thing about the entire franchise after Alien Earth. This isn't the first installment in the franchise to ask big questions. Far from it. We mean, Prometheus shot for the moon with its ideas, but then you had things like biologists petting alien snakes and Charlize Theron running with Zoolander mechanics.
I can't turn left.
And those big ideas sort of got lost along the way. Covenant has some great moments, but it also got bogged down with flute lessons and messiah complexes, and never turned into any cohesive statement about the human condition, other than, like,
I think if we are kind, it will be a kind world.
because that's what these are all about, right? Alien is always centered on humanity prevailing in a topsy-turvy world of robots and killer aliens. The title of the first movie is about the literal alien, yeah, but it's also a reference to the strange and hostile or alien environment that it thrusts its characters into. With 8 hours of runtime to explore its different themes, Alien Earth fleshes out this alien world in ways that haven't been done before. It's even more impressive given that it's set on Earth. You know, the least alien place in the universe, but it's terrifying nonetheless. The threat of machines that are better than you in every way, of losing autonomy to cold corporate interests, of how quickly you'd abandon your morals to save someone you love, or help a friend. These unnerving and alien scenarios all swell closer and closer until you're nearly suffocating on them. That's not to say that every installment needs heady philosophical discussions. Sometimes you just want a space bug stalking a ship's corridors. But Alien Earth understands that the series is often more about the question of what alienates us than the aliens themselves. And now that the bar has been raised once again, there are going to be plenty of expectations for whatever comes next to reach that same bar. So what is next for Alien? First, the good news. A second season of Earth is extremely likely. The premiere episode pulled in 9.2 million views in its first few days on the platform, and FX has said from the beginning that they wanted to keep the show going long term. Hawley has said that he has a pretty good idea of where things will go.
I have a destination in mind story-wise, which allows me to know what the story is I'm telling, what it means.
There are a lot of threads to pick up following the end of Episode 8, so hopefully when that season materializes, it addresses some of those lingering questions. Now the less good news. Fede Alvarez won't be directing the upcoming Romulus sequel. In February 2025, he said he planned to make it his next film, but Variety reported in September that he was passing the torch to another as yet unknown filmmaker, so that project is still a bit of a mystery. Then there are Predators. Predators aren't technically canon in the tidy way that a mysterious goo capable of spawning any number of biological nightmares is canon, but since Predators really want to be canon, they're definitely worth mentioning. As you've probably seen, Predator Badlands features a Weyland-Yutani synth, making a direct connection between the two film universes. Will they physically cross over again at some point? We'll be down to watch another AVP. Alien fans are nothing else, not too picky. We'll eat the radioactive shrimp right alongside the caviar, no matter what the consequences are.
I guarantee you'll grow an extra ear.
For everything we just said about Alien Earth and its heady symbolism and thoughtful discussions of morality, we can get just as excited for a schlocky space monster mashup. Give us everything, is what we're saying. The whole Xeno buffet.